Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm Tammy Stacklehouse, fibromyalgia coach, author, and founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute. The goal of this podcast is to empower you with access to the dream team of experts and coaches I've discovered are key to living the fibro life you love. From the comfort of your own home, and maybe even your pajamas, I'll help you take back control of your life and health. To help out with fibro fog, I always include full show notes and additional resources at fibromyalgiapodcast.com. Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tammy Stacklehouse, and this is episode 80. Today is our Ask the Coach episode, and I'm going to answer a question that was sent in by a listener. I received an email that simply stated, "When will the pain end?" And I had to chuckle a little bit when I got it because honestly, that is a very, very loaded question. There are so many different ways I could go in answering that, and so many things I need to know in order to answer that question appropriately. Come to find out, she was the mom of a 13-year-old who had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I gave her some information and connected her with our certified fibromyalgia coach, Jaira Helfin, who specializes in working with teens and their families. Now, today, I'm going to take her question and answer it in a broader way, because my answer to her for a 13-year-old is a little bit different than I might say to you. I do want to say, for those of you out there who are more interested in how fibromyalgia impacts children, I do have 2 episodes for you to check out. Episode 16, Fibromyalgia in Children with Dr. Melissa Congdon, and episode 25, The Impact of Juvenile Fibromyalgia on Families with Jaira Helfin. Now, you can get the links to both of those episodes in today's show notes. Just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/80, and we'll have those links there for you. Now, as I said, today I want to answer this question in a more general way because honestly, it's what you're thinking, right? When is this pain going to end? The thing with fibromyalgia is that it's not going to spontaneously resolve itself. It's not the kind of illness that's going to run its course and be done, like something like, say, chickenpox or whatever, right? You're not going to have it run its course and wake up one day and be back to normal. Fibromyalgia just doesn't work that way. It's also not something that you're going to outgrow in terms of this teenager. It's also not something that is going to be outgrown as you move through adulthood. For women going into menopause or other age-related changes, fibromyalgia is not going to spontaneously resolve over the course of those. Having said that, of course, things like our hormones do play a role in our fibromyalgia symptoms, but it's not something that you're going to outgrow or spontaneously have it be fixed. You are going to have to do something to fix it. I also want to be really clear that fibromyalgia, and now there are some people who disagree with this, but in my opinion, fibromyalgia is not a progressive illness. And what I mean by progressive is that it just continues to get worse over time, no matter what you do. Something like Alzheimer's would be considered a progressive illness, or MS might be considered a progressive illness. There's no cure. There's things we can do to slow it down for sure, but in the end, it just progressively gets worse. For most people, fibromyalgia does appear to be this way, but that is simply because they are not getting adequate treatment, effective treatment. They're not getting what they need to truly feel better. You could consider it like if you had diabetes, for instance, type 2 diabetes. If you don't treat that, of course, it's going to get progressively worse. but it can be treated, even reversed, with the right treatment and lifestyle changes. Fibromyalgia is the same way. If it's adequately treated, if you get the right treatment, if you get it early, especially if you get treatment soon, and if you make the right changes in your own life, fibromyalgia can be reversed. It can be in remission, like mine is, and you can feel better. We can keep it from being progressive. So I do want to be clear that while fibromyalgia is not going to spontaneously resolve itself, it can change and it can improve. So there is potentially an end to the pain, but not without you doing something. Now, I do want to just share a little story from my own life. You may have read this in one of my books or heard me talk about it on the podcast. But years ago, after I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, about 2 years into my diagnosis, I had a moment where I sort of had this glimpse of my future. And everything that I envisioned, the road, so to speak, as I looked out ahead of me in my life, the road was all downhill. Everything was spiraling downhill. And I did not want that. I mean, of course I didn't. I was 37 years old at the time, I think. I definitely did not want my life as I knew it to be over. And so I knew I had to make a change. And you are at that moment right now. If you keep going down the road that you're on in the same way that you've been going down the road that you're on, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting, right? You've heard that cliche. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It is a cliche, but there's also some truth in that, right? We need to make changes if we want to see a different result. In my case, I made an appointment with my doctor, went and saw her, talked about my concerns, and that was when she introduced me to my very first health coach. And that changed everything. That is the single turning point in my entire journey. And without that introduction, without hiring that health coach, I know I would not be here today. Now, in your case, maybe it's that dramatic, maybe it's not. But the reality is you are going to have to change what you're doing. You're going to have to change your path if you want a different outcome. You're going to have to change some of your habits. You might have to change your diet. You might have to change some of the things you're doing. You're going to have to change your various treatments, maybe some of the supplements, medications. There's a lot of change that is going to happen in order for the pain to end the way the email was worded. For one thing, you're going to have to teach your body how to not be in pain. There are several concepts talked about with chronic pain that basically all boil down to your body has gotten really, really good at processing pain. In fact, it started to sense everything that it comes across as pain. We have a light touch. Ooh, that hurts. We bump our arm on the door jamb as we walk through the doorway. Ooh, that hurts. Wearing clothes hurts. A hug hurts. So our body gets really, really good at processing everything as pain. This is more true the longer that you've been in pain. Now, we have to break that cycle and we have to teach our bodies that there is another way. And that is not always quick, nor is it always easy. In his book, Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hour rule. And while I don't think this is a real rule like gravity, I do believe that the longer you do something, the better you get at it, right? So the longer your body has been in pain, the better it becomes at processing pain, the more wires there are in your brain connected to process pain. And so we have to reverse that. And just like the better you become at something, the longer you do it, same is also true for not processing things as pain, right? So we have to get better and better at processing normal sensation, processing normal life. To give you an idea, 10,000 hours, if we just pretend that this is a real rule, 10,000 hours is about 14 months if you're doing something 24/7, like being in pain with fibromyalgia. If you've been in pain 24/7 and you have gone the typical 5 years or so before you get a diagnosis and appropriate treatment, that is way more hours than 10,000 hours. So, thinking about how long it's going to take for your body to no longer process everything as pain. If you're not in pain 24/7, then that's about 14 months to equal 10,000 hours. And again, this is not a real rule. I'm just using it to give you an example of how much time that actually takes. In one of our recent episodes where I interviewed my doctor, Dr. Kaylee Bourgeois, she talks about the fact that she tells her patients it is going to take about a year for you to see real improvement. So don't be thinking about how quickly this can end. We want to be thinking about this as a marathon, not as a sprint. It's a bit like the process of losing weight or getting into shape. You can't just go to the gym once and all of a sudden your body's perfectly in shape. It's something that takes time. And so answering that question, when will the pain end? The answer is it takes time. And it takes time for your body to relearn a new way of being. Now, there are things you can do to make this process go more quickly. The most important one is to learn all that you can about fibromyalgia so that you can make the best choices possible for your treatment. The reality is your doctor does not know everything that they need to know in order to treat you unless you're fortunate enough to see a true fibromyalgia specialist. Those are very few in the world and far between and hard to get into. So most likely that is not the case for you, which means your doctor has some gaps in their knowledge. They may not be aware of all the different treatment options. They might not be aware of the science and the research that's been done on fibromyalgia and all the ways that you can improve your pain and your fatigue. So it's up to you. You have to learn all that you can. The good thing is that there are lots of options out there for places that you can learn. Number one, you're listening to this podcast. So yay, you've already started. Gold star for you. But there are also books, not just my books, which you can grab for free on the podcast website, but also books by those specialists I was just talking about. One of the ones I recommend to almost all my clients is Dr. Lipton's book, The Fibro Manual. The thing that is so cool about her book is that she's got a little section in the back that is written specifically for your doctor. It's sort of a Cliff Notes version that gives them, doctor to doctor speak on what they need to know to help you feel your best. The rest of the book is written for you. So that is a great book to start with. And if you need other resources, just Google it. Just do a little bit of searching. Just look on Amazon, look at your favorite bookstore. There are lots of books out there, but educate yourself. The other thing that you can do is get someone to teach you. If you don't want to be the one to try to figure out where to find good information, there are classes out there that you can take to help educate you. One of them is my Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor class. In this class, we spend 3 months teaching you everything I can about fibromyalgia in 3 months, while you are also working with your own fibromyalgia coach. This is a great way to learn. There are other ways that you can learn as well. You can have someone like a coach come alongside you and teach you. You might have a doctor or a chiropractor who is teaching you about fibromyalgia. There are support groups, online and in person support groups that you can go to. So there are lots of ways for you to learn all you can about fibromyalgia. Your goal is going to be a student of fibromyalgia and learn everything that you can. The second thing that you can do to make this go more quickly is to learn all you can about yourself. The tricky thing about fibromyalgia is that we all react in different ways. Our symptoms show up differently. We respond to different treatment options differently. And it's one of the challenges for other doctors to know what to do with us, because are you the person who's going to respond positively to this, or are you the person who's going to respond negatively to this particular treatment? So you need to become a student of your own body. And I've talked about that in episode 47, where I actually teach you how to write your body's owner's manual. So I would recommend that you go check out that episode. But the bottom line is you just need to become a student of your body. Pay attention. What helps you feel better? What helps you feel worse? Once you know those things, you can choose to do more of the things that help you feel better and less of the things that help you feel worse. So go check out that episode. Again, we'll have a link to that on today's show notes. Just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/80. There are two other episodes that I want to mention that I think are helpful as we talk about this question, when will the pain end? And what do you need to do in order to help that pain to end? One of them is episode 43. What does it take to get better? In this episode, I talk about a lot of different things that it takes to help you feel better. And this isn't so much take this particular supplement or do this particular treatment. It's more, what do you need in terms of support, mindset, things like that. So it can be a great place to start to make sure that you are in the right place to really begin working on this problem. Episode 40 is another one that I would recommend, and it is all about whether or not you should go outside your insurance to get your fibromyalgia treatment. This is another one of our Ask the Coach episodes. A listener had written in asking about whether or not she should go outside her insurance to get fibromyalgia treatment. And in that episode, I answer that question and talk about why you probably have to go outside your insurance if you want to feel your best. I'd love to be able to tell you that everything you need to recover from fibromyalgia, your health insurance is going to cover, but that's just not going to happen. It doesn't matter where you live, whether you're here in the US or you're in another country where health care is covered by the government. Regardless, a lot of the things that you're going to need to do are changes you need to make in your own lifestyle, your own habits, how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you are about saying no to things and overdoing things, but also things that pretty much are never going to be covered by insurance, like addressing certain nutrient deficiencies, taking supplements, things like that. So check out that episode as well. We will link to all of these episodes on today's show notes. Just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/80. So again, that question, when will the pain end? It's such a huge question. And there's so many factors that go into that. How long you've had fibromyalgia, what other things you've got going on with you that are contributing to that pain, what kind of resources you have, whether that's time or money, or you live in a big town or a small town. The access to resources can make a huge difference. One of the other factors in this is what your other life responsibilities are, what your lifestyle is like. If I'm talking to the mom of a 13-year-old and we're talking about the 13-year-old, then they're in a much better place to be able to maybe relax and give their bodies all the rest and care that they need. If we're talking about the mom who has fibromyalgia, mom is responsible for taking care of that 13-year-old, right? So there's only so much responsibility she can lay down just to take care of herself while still also taking care of that 13-year-old. So again, your situation is unique to you. And the best way to answer this question for you, when will the pain end, would be to have a conversation with me or with one of my coaches, and we can dig into your specific situation, your specific challenges, lifestyle, and come up with some more clear answers on what you can do and what the path might be for you to ending that pain, to getting back to living the life that you want to live. So to wrap up today's episode, I want to go back to our listener who sent in that email, and I have been keeping her anonymous since her 13-year-old is involved in this conversation, but you know who you are. And in the end, after I had connected her to Jaira, our certified fibromyalgia coach who specializes in working with teens and families, one of the things that she emailed me was, "Thank you for allowing me a space to be part of something that has so many loops and twists and pain. And you are so welcome in that." Fibromyalgia does have a lot of loops and twists and pain. It can be very isolating. It can feel very lonely, whether you're the one who is dealing with fibromyalgia yourself or you love someone who has been dealing with fibromyalgia. It can feel very isolating, and you can feel very hopeless and helpless at the same time. So know that you're not alone. There are people out there like me and my coaches who have walked this road ourselves. We have done the research. We have learned all that we could. And our job, literally, our jobs are to help you figure it out. If you ever want to connect with someone, we would love to help you. Just go to findafibrocoach.com and you can request a consultation. And that wraps up another episode of the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tammy Stackelhouse. For daily doses of hope, inspiration, and practical advice, come hang out with me on Facebook. Visit facebook.com/fibrocoach to find my personal coaching page and connect with me directly. To find the show notes, additional resources, or to schedule a consultation with me or one of my coaches, visit fibromyalgiapodcast.com.